Hi folks, and welcome back to Meaningful Money. Okay, here I am a little bit closer to Nanjizzle Beach, which, despite me promising you the perfect beach, if you just look, it's not a brilliant view, I admit, but just over my right shoulder to the left from your perspective of the little bridge and steps behind me, what you'll see is a lot of rocks. And it turns out it looks like all the sand has been taken out by the wind and the waves. And it's actually quite prone to that at this beach. It can, all while my wife was growing up, this was the beach she would come to, beautiful sandy cove. But most of the time she and we lived away, it was just rocks the whole time. But only a couple, 3 years ago, all the sand came in again. But so it's a bit disappointing that you're not seeing it in its full glory. But I shall bring you back down here again when it's back to its former glory so you can see it at its best. Now we've got to finish off the accumulation bit of pensions, the saving up into a pension for retirement, and just finish off the company pensions bit with something called a small self-administered scheme, or a SSAS, SSAS. Now these are company pensions, first thing to say. We've talked about defined benefit schemes and defined contribution schemes. These are like the SIPs, remember those from 2 or 3 videos ago, but the SIPs of the company pension world. So these are company pensions sponsored by an employer. And what you find is that these are company schemes run either by small companies or for a select bunch of people within a big company. So they tend to, or the members of these schemes tend to be directors or key personnel within a given company. Now they work a little bit like SIPs, a lot like SIPs really, in that there is a company usually which oversees the administration, and then that's separate from the investment side, which like SIPs can be pretty much anything subject to the usual tax rules. Probably the main reason again that these types of schemes are used is to invest in commercial property. So I imagine, I don't know this for a fact, but I imagine that in many SSASs are office buildings or factories of the company which runs the pension scheme. So if I have a manufacturing company, for example, it might be that the factory that is making whatever I'm making is an investment within the SSAS of the company, the SSAS pension scheme. Just like SIPs, SSAS schemes can borrow to buy things, but importantly they can also lend to the company which runs them. So if my company is in cash flow difficulties, just finding it difficult to make ends meet in the teeth of the recession that we've just technically come out of, well, it may be that I could borrow some money from the pension scheme in order to tide me over. So that's quite unusual, but it's a facet of these particular kinds of schemes, and those loans can be useful. We've actually had an example of that as a company ourselves. Not that we were in financial difficulty, but one of our clients was many years ago, and we were able to orchestrate a loan from the pension scheme to the sponsoring employer, which was subsequently paid back, and that employer has absolutely gone strength to strength. But at that time, was finding things tough, and the loan from the pension scheme was able to tide them through. So those loans have to meet certain criteria. For instance, no more than half of the pension fund assets can be lent to the sponsoring employer, the company which runs the pension. It must be secured on something, so either on the property itself or any other assets. It must be 5 years or less a loan, and there must be interest payable on it. It can't be an interest-free loan. Interest rate needs to be market rate, so it's got to be at least 1% above the Bank of England base rate. So that's probably the key differentiator of SSASs, but essentially they're just pension schemes, a little bit like the ones we've talked about recently. So we've covered now, and that's quite a short one because SSASs are not going to be relevant to the vast majority of people visiting this website, but important just to be complete in covering everything off. We've done accumulation, the building up of money in a pension plan. Now we're going to do decumulation, taking your money out. And next time we're going to talk about the main ways you can do that, and after that go into a bit more detail on that. So from Nanjizzle Beach, looking not at its best, thanks very much for watching and see you next time.